Hello everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are going to be talking about something that is closely related to some of the subjects that I have been covering recently. If you have been keeping up with my videos, you may notice that there is a little bit of a trend. I've been spending a lot of time talking about red flags and safe words and consent issues and speaking up in our community and how to make better community spaces and accountability and all of these really big complex issues. And I really do think that these subjects are important. I do believe that spending time talking about them is worthwhile, and I think in order to have a complete kink education, you do need to be aware of warning signs, things you should look out for in potentially toxic relationships. I think all of that goes into actually developing what your risk profile is. My worry is maybe that our focus on these negative aspects of BDSM, the fear, the worry, the abuse, the consent issues, creates this idea that being in the BDSM community is just like inherently a really, really dangerous thing, that like every single person who messages you on FetLife is going to be a predator, that every single party has somebody lurking in the shadows waiting to take advantage of you, that kind of thing. And I don't personally believe that it is always that way. I can easily see why one might get that impression, and especially because I've been covering these topics and other people have as well, I've been getting a lot of messages from people who are now like genuinely scared to join the BDSM community because they are so worried they are going to end up in a potentially dangerous or abusive situation. And I just want everybody to remember that, like, fundamentally, kink is a fun thing. This is why we're all here, I assume, is to have fun and find people we're compatible with and have a good time. And for the most part, everyone else is going to be the same way too. It really is the exception and not the rule that people will have bad relationship patterns, that people will be looking to manipulate you, that people will be looking to create an abusive situation. And in that framework, what I want to talk about today is not red flags, but green flags. And if you're not familiar with that term, don't worry about it. I actually wasn't either. I had not even heard of this before at all until I ran across this one particular thread on Twitter. And that was actually inspired by an article in HuffPost by Brittany Wong. And what is really interesting about this subject is it doesn't seem like either one of these people really like know where this term came from. They're not claiming ownership over it, and I did obviously as well get permission before I did this video to like use this terminology, so nobody claims ownership over this term. It seems to have been in use for a while. But basically what a green flag is it's like a good sign for the relationship. It means that you are interacting with somebody and you're picking up on things that indicate that this is a person who is compatible with you, that shares the same goals, somebody you're comfortable around. And especially in a kink context, I think, because these conversations originally were not necessarily applied strictly to kink, I think it also can apply to situations where you're trying to evaluate if somebody does actually have healthy consent practices, that somebody will respect your personhood, that somebody will respect your autonomy, because if you can't have a relationship where that is the base of it, it's going to be very hard to then build a healthy long-term relationship off of that. And you can contrast this with a red flag, which again, for those of you who aren't familiar, is something that should be taken as a warning sign, a caution sign, that something or someone is perhaps a potentially dangerous situation. And the example that I often go back to for this is somebody who wants to cut off all outside contact, so somebody who doesn't want you to communicate with friends or family or anything like that. So that's what a red flag is, but today we are talking about green flags. I would be careful as we are starting this conversation to not confuse green flags with a partner wish list. This is not about finding somebody who has a good sense of humor or knows how to dress themselves or has nice hair. It's not about that. This is about looking at signs that somebody is on the right path to developing a healthy relationship with you and with having long-term basic compatibility with you as well. So As per usual, let's go ahead and get into the list. What are some things that I have observed myself that I believe can be a green flag in a potential relationship? Now, these are just going to be 5, so feel free to share your own down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you all what your ideas are about green flags, because we all have a little bit of a different perspective in how we evaluate relationships and the sorts of things that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so number 1 is that they are committed to ongoing education. Now, I might be a little bit biased here because, YouTube is my full-time job and I am an educator, but I really do think that committing to ongoing education is a great sign, especially for a kink relationship. And there are a few reasons for this. Namely, I would say that it shows an ongoing commitment to self-improvement, and I think that can be a really positive sign for a relationship. It shows that somebody is not so egotistical that they think they already know everything. In general, it is a pretty big red flag for me if I come across somebody who's like, I already know everything, I learned from all the experts. In my mind, there's always room for improvement, there's always room for growth, and committing to ongoing education is great as well. And on a little bit of a lighter note, learning new things means that you are more likely to have new ideas to bring to the table. That means you are more easily going to be able to keep your scenes fresh. You're more easily going to be able to find new things to do together. They're just willing to explore. There's more openness there. There's a willingness to learn about other perspectives and just take other people's point of views into account. And all that, again, for me, is a really great sign. Alright, number 2 is they don't just say they respect consent and safe words, they actually practice it. Now, as I have discussed in several of my other videos, there is a difference between the abstract notion of using a safe word and having good consent practices versus actually having to do it in real life. And maybe this isn't something where you have to safe word with this person, but maybe you observe them doing it with somebody else, or they tell you a time about in the past when they had to do this. But for me, it is a really positive thing when somebody's able to share time or experience with me, a moment when a safe word actually has to be used, and then we have to go ahead and work through it. Because, okay, safe word gets used, scene ends, great. And then also having a debrief, not being afraid to have a discussion about what happened. I think it is a really positive sign if somebody is willing to kind of, hold space for you and work with you through something and kind of figure out, okay, here's what happened that went wrong, here's where we could improve for the future, and not doing it in like a blame way. I think a lot of times we focus too much on like figuring out like where to assign blame for things, like, oh, you were 90% responsible and I was 10% responsible. Me personally, I don't think that's really helpful for like a long-term healing process. Rather than figuring out like, who's assigning blame to whom, it should be about like, okay, how can we work on this for the future? Where did things go wrong? And how can we make sure that this isn't going to happen again? So that's basically what it means to me. And I think as well, the big counterpoint to this is people who, rather than responding in the way that was negotiated or being willing to talk about the situation, like close up and wall themselves off to like any sort of discussion. They don't want to talk about why it happened. They don't want to talk about how they contributed to anything. Nothing. They just are like, nope, I did nothing wrong, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear it. Just that to me is a negative reaction as well. And then you also have the people who deny that anything. And then you have the people who not only deny that something happened or they are completely unwilling to accept any kind of conversation about it. You also have the people who use it as a sort of weapon almost in future conversations, like, oh, well, I guess we can't do that kind of play anymore because you had this safe word. Or people who just use it as like a dig for like future negotiations and like kind of a haha jokey kind of way, but not really in a haha jokey kind of way. If you've ever been in that kind of situation, you know what I'm talking about. There are, for some reason, some people out there that think it's like funny to like joke about a time when somebody had to safe word, even if it was like a really serious moment, and kind of use it against them, like in a like, oh, you're not really as like a heavy of a player as you say you are kind of a way. It's really weird. It's not a good dynamic, and so that's more of a red flag. But in terms of a green flag, I do think it is really positive when somebody can work with you with consent practices, can work with you when using safe words, and really actually demonstrate that they are not only saying that they can do something, but actually do what they say they can do. All right, number 3 is that you can be your full kinky self around them. This is a little bit of like a kinkyified version of what was already included in the HuffPo article, but this is so true. Being able to be your authentic self around somebody is a very rare thing, be that in vanilla relationships, in kink relationships, in monogamy or polyamory. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you have. It can be very difficult to actually just like fully let go, put down your walls, put down your guard, and just be like, hey, like, here's me, here's who I am. And especially when that comes about in a natural way, that can be very rewarding. And I think it shows that you have a depth of trust with somebody. I think it shows that you have a depth of mutual understanding, mutual vulnerability. If you can be that full authentic self around somebody and, talk about anything that you want to, talk about all of your crazy fantasies and your fetishes and your kinks, and do it in a way where you are no longer feeling inhibited. And when you do feel that way, I think it's something that's probably worth holding on to. All right, number 4 is that they keep the communication lines open even when discussing something is really hard. This isn't just for kink situations, although it could be, did a scene go wrong? Did an ex-partner come out with less than savory accusations about something that happened during their relationship? Maybe they forgot to keep a promise. Maybe they broke a rule that you had. Maybe something happened in their vanilla life that's affecting your relationship. There are many things that can happen that can impede the flow of communication. And communication is important no matter where you are in your relationship. It's important when things are going great, and it's super important when things aren't going so great. It's so easy to shut down, wall people off, refuse to talk about things, not feel comfortable, not wanting to have those hard conversations. But when you do find somebody that is willing to put in the effort, that knows how to practice this form of communication, that is willing to communicate things in a sensitive way, even though the topic is very difficult to discuss, that is something that I would definitely note as a positive for the relationship. It is so valuable when somebody can come to you and say, hey, so like I'm kind of having these feelings about our relationship. I'm wondering if you can help me process them. Or, hey, I had a really rough day at work, so like I don't think I'm going to be up for this thing that we negotiated. Or even just being able to say I'm sorry. Like, it's very hard for people sometimes to actually say a genuine apology, a genuine I'm sorry. I mean, the freaking history of YouTube apologies has clearly demonstrated this. People have difficulty genuinely admitting mistakes, genuinely owning up to things, and also opening up to their partner about like, hey, like I messed up. That's on me. Here's what we can do to move this forward. What do you need from me? Having that back and forth dialogue, having that sort of conversation is so very important. All right, number 5 is they show up in the relationship every day. Now, I am not necessarily the sort of person who believes in true love at first sight and then you both walk off blissfully into the sunset without any future problems in the relationship whatsoever. I think that relationships take work. And again, it doesn't matter if they are vanilla, monogamous, kinky, poly, queer, straight, whatever. It doesn't matter what type of relationship it is. They take work. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes communication, it takes honesty. There are many things that go into actually building a healthy long-term relationship. And if you can find somebody who is willing to put in the hours, willing to be honest, willing to be dedicated to building something with you, that is a very valuable thing. It is so easy, especially in DS relationships, especially in long-term kink-focused relationships, to kind of let things slide a little bit, to get to a comfort level, to not want to improve on things, to just kind of be content. And maybe you forget a few rules here and there, or maybe they forget a punishment here and there, or they're not keeping track on certain things, or they're not checking in. All of these little things can really add up to damage a relationship. And this is not to say that they shouldn't ever happen at all. I mean, we are all human. We all have our own schedules and needs, and things just happen. Life just happens. But beyond just, not having anything go wrong in the first place, there's also the way that somebody responds in order to help build the relationship back up, and always being committed, okay, maybe we fell off the track here for a little bit, maybe we kind of fell behind in this one area, but always being willing to acknowledge that, move forward with it, work through it, and just saying, hey, like, I'm here, I want to be in the relationship. I know sometimes that might be hard. That might be something where, we have to have difficult conversations, or, I have to be dedicated to checking your chore chart every week, or you have to be dedicated enough to send me pictures every day. Whatever it happens to be, just staying committed to that and showing up and being willing to put in the work, that is a wonderful sign as well. Okay, I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about in today's video. Again, these are just some of my suggestions for green flags in a relationship. These are things that I personally look out for if I am wondering if something's going to work out long term or not. If you have any green flags that you would like to share, you can do that down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more from me, the best way to do that is to subscribe to this channel. I make videos twice a week around all sorts of topics, BDSM, kink, asexuality, sex toy reviews, a little bit of everything. That's what we discuss here on this channel. And if you really like this, if you want to support my work financially, the best way to do that is through Patreon. Link to it will be down below. That not only allows me to do YouTube full time, but it also means I get to offer you all things that I can't do here on YouTube. So that means I have extra videos, photo shoots, extra live streams. I also have a Discord chat, FetLife, all sorts of fun things. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. Link to it will be down below. If you already support me on there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you guys next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.